Hey everyone, ready to dive into something kind of cool?
Always ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today we're gonna tackle Cloud SQL,
Okay.
a service that Google Cloud offers,
Yeah.
and it promises to like take away all those database headaches, right?
Yeah.
So think about this. You want a delicious cake,
Right? Who doesn't?
I know,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to spend hours like slaving away baking from scratch.
Right.
Cloud SQL is kind of like that perfect cake mix.
Oh, okay.
All those ingredients for like a powerful database,
Yeah.
but without the hassle of like setting it up yourself and all that managing.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the best part, we've got all this info straight from like Google Cloud's own docs. So it's like straight from the source.
Awesome. Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first. What exactly is Cloud SQL?
So it's a fully managed relational database service. I know that sounds super jargony,
Yeah.
but let me break it down. Imagine a dedicated server, like just for your database, but you don't have to worry about any of the server stuff, like the actual hardware or the operating system or security patches or any of that.
So it's like they take care of all the boring stuff.
Exactly. Google handles it all like behind the scenes so you can focus on what really
The
matters.
data.
The data, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having like a personal IT team for your database, just like working around the clock.
Yeah, pretty much.
But okay, so how does it actually work? Like what's going on under the hood?
Well, each Cloud SQL instance, and that's basically your own like individual database setup,
Mm-hmm.
is basically a virtual machine running on one of Google's servers.
Okay.
It's kind of like imagine a mini computer within, like a giant data center, totally dedicated to your database.
That's pretty cool. But let's get practical here, right?
Yeah.
Who is this service actually for?
Yeah.
Like when would someone actually choose to use Cloud SQL?
Well, you'd be surprised how many people already do use it without even realizing. Like, if you're using apps running on Google Cloud, things like their compute engine or app engine, there's a good chance that Cloud SQL is actually already working behind the scenes storing all that data.
Really?
Yeah. It's great for developers who need a reliable database that can, like, scale with their apps as they grow,
Right.
but who don't want to deal with all that admin work.
So it's like that classic choice, like fancy coffee machine versus like instant coffee.
Oh, I like that.
Sometimes you need that like control and customization, but sometimes you just want a good cup of coffee without all the fuss.
Yeah.
And Cloud SQL sounds like the like instant coffee of databases.
I think that's a pretty good analogy. Fast, easy, reliable.
Exactly. So, okay, we know it's convenient and all that, but what does Cloud SQL actually do for you? Like what tasks are we actually talking about here?
It's honestly easier to ask what it doesn't do.
Oh, okay, well, shoot.
Well, for starters, backups are completely automated. Remember those late nights, frantically trying to back up your database before, like, a big update?
So tell me about it.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Oh, the peace of mind alone.
Yeah.
Right, that's got to be worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And on top of that, if for any reason a server goes down, Cloud SQL has, like, high availability and failover features built in.
Hmm.
So that means your data is basically, like, instantly switched to another server.
Yeah.
Your apps just keep running smoothly. No more downtime headaches.
Wow, that's seriously impressive. But there's got to be more,
Oh,
right?
yeah, there's tons more. Think about like connecting to your database or moving data in and out or regular maintenance and software updates.
Right, right.
Cloud SQL handles all of that. It even monitors your database's performance and
Yeah.
keeps these logs of everything so you can just spot and address any issues.
Okay, now I'm seeing the appeal here. It sounds like Cloud SQL basically takes care of all the boring but crucial tasks so you can focus on the interesting stuff, like your data
Exactly.
and what you can actually do with it.
Yes.
Okay, this is all making sense. So let's zoom in on one of these Cloud SQL instances. What's actually in there?
All right, so at its heart, you have this thing called a persistent disk. It's basically like a super reliable hard drive that's dedicated to your database. Think of it as like the foundation of your data.
Okay, so that's where all my precious data lives.
Got it,
Yeah.
exactly. And to make sure your apps can always find it, each instance has a static IP address. It's like a permanent address that never changes, so your connection is always stable.
So it's all like neatly organized and ready to go.
Yep.
But if Cloud SQL is managing all of this, does that mean I could just forget about database administration altogether?
Well, not entirely. Cloud SQL is amazing at handling the infrastructure and keeping things running, but it's not a full-blown database administration tool. You can still do basic tasks like creating and deleting databases and users, but for the nitty-gritty details of database management, you'll want to use like a separate tool that's specifically designed for that.
So it's kind of like having a self-driving car.
Yeah.
It'll take you where you need to go, but you still need to know how to steer if you want to go, like off-roading,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I get it. So what are some of these like database admin tools that people usually use with Cloud SQL?
Oh, tons of options out there. Some popular ones are like Peachy My Admin, MySQL Workbench, ToadEdge, pgadmin.org, SQL Server Management Studio.
Wow, there's a lot.
Even Visual Studio Code can be used for database administration. It really just depends on your personal preference and the specific database engine you're using.
Okay, so like so many choices. It sounds like we could do a whole other deep dive just on choosing the right database admin tool.
Huh?
But let's talk about like the elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
Cost. All this convenience can't be free, right?
You're right. There is a cost associated with Cloud SQL, but here's the thing. Think about how much time and money you'd spend if you were setting up and maintaining your own database infrastructure.
Right.
You'd need servers, software licenses, a whole IT team to keep everything running. With Cloud SQL, you're essentially paying for that convenience and peace of mind.
So it's like weighing the cost of DIY versus like letting the experts handle it. That makes sense. So how does the pricing actually work?
It depends on a few factors: how much storage you need, the processing power and memory your database requires, where your data is stored, how much network traffic you have,
Right.
a few other things like that. But Google provides some helpful pricing examples on their website that can give you a better idea.
Perfect. And I think I heard somewhere they have a free trial and some credits for new users so you can kind of
Wow.
test the waters without breaking the bank.
Yeah, definitely check that out.
Okay, let's say I'm sold. I've got my Cloud SQL instance all set up, ready to go. How do I actually connect to it and start using my database?
Connecting to a Cloud SQL database is surprisingly pretty similar to connecting to a self-managed database.
Okay.
But with a few key differences because of the added security. It depends on whether you have a public or private IP address for your instance.
Right.
So public IP addresses can be accessed from anywhere on the internet,
Makes sense.
but private IP addresses are only accessible within like your own secure network.
So it's like choosing between a house with a front door anyone can knock on versus a house with like a high security gate.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So I can control like how accessible my database is depending on my security needs. What if I want to be like extra cautious?
For maximum security, Google Cloud offers something called the Cloud SQL Auth Proxy. So it basically adds another layer of protection by controlling access to your database.
So it's like having a security guard at the gate, checking everyone's ID before they can even get close to your data.
Exactly.
Okay, phew. That makes me feel a lot better. All right. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But one thing that's still kind of fuzzy for me is updates. What happens behind the scenes to keep my Cloud SQL instance like up to date and secure?
Okay, so there are two main types of updates.
Okay.
Configuration updates, which are changes that you make to your Cloud SQL instance,
Mhm.
and system updates, which are handled by Google Cloud.
Okay.
So configuration updates are things like adding more storage, tweaking settings, or enabling high availability.
So if I need to make changes to my setup, I can do that myself.
Exactly. And for most configuration updates, you don't even need to take your database offline. Cloud SQL is designed to be super smooth.
Oh, that's good to know. But what about those system updates? What kind of things are we talking about there?
System updates cover all that behind-the-scenes work that keeps your database running smoothly.
Okay.
This includes things like hardware upgrades, security patches, bug fixes, and operating system updates.
So it's like having a team of like invisible mechanics constantly tinkering under the hood, making sure everything's running at peak performance.
Precisely. And the best part is that Google Cloud handles all those system updates automatically. You don't have to do a thing.
That's fantastic. So no more late nights frantically patching servers or worrying about those security vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Google's got me covered. But are all system updates created equal? Like are there different types?
You're right. There are actually three main categories of system updates, each with their own kind of characteristics.
Ooh, I love a good categorization system. Tell me more.
All right, so first we have hardware updates. These involve physically upgrading the servers and infrastructure that your Cloud SQL instance runs on. Think of it like replacing an old hard drive or upgrading to a faster processor.
So even the physical hardware gets updated. I'm impressed.
Absolutely. And the coolest part is that these hardware updates happen seamlessly in the background thanks to a technology called live migration. This lets Google move your virtual machine to a new host without any interruption to your applications. You won't even notice it happening.
That's amazing. It's like they're swapping out the engine of a car while you're still driving down the road.
It is. It's a great analogy.
That's wild. All right, so what's next?
Then we have online updates, which are all about improving the software that's running alongside your database program. These updates happen in the background while your database is still up and running.
So again, no downtime for me.
Yep.
It's like getting a software upgrade on your phone while you're still using it.
Exactly. Smooth and painless.
I love that. And last but not least.
And finally, we have maintenance updates. These are usually the most involved updates, as they often involve upgrading the operating system or the database program itself.
So this is where things could potentially get a bit disruptive.
Well, maintenance updates typically require a restart, which means a brief period of downtime. But don't worry, Cloud SQL lets you schedule these updates for a time that works best for you. You can choose a time when traffic is low, or even schedule it during, like, off-peak hours.
So even with these, like, more involved updates, I still have control over when they happen.
Yep.
That helps minimize any disruption to my workflow. That's really reassuring. Okay, so let me get this straight. We've got these three types of system updates: hardware, online, and maintenance. All of them are handled by Google Cloud automatically, but the maintenance updates might require a bit of downtime, which I can schedule in advance to minimize any, negative impact. Did I get that right?
You nailed it. You're clearly a fast learner.
Well, I have a great teacher. But seriously, this is all starting to make sense. Cloud SQL really does take care of so much behind the scenes, freeing me up to focus on the things that really matter. But before we go any further, I think it's time to take a quick breather and let all this information sink in. We'll be back in a flash to dive even deeper into the world of Cloud SQL.
Okay, I think we're ready to jump back in.
Let's do it. I'm feeling much better, ready to learn more. So we've covered, a lot of the technical, nuts and bolts of Cloud SQL,
Oh, yeah.
what it is, how it works, all those different types of updates and so on.
Right.
But I think it's important to step back for a second, look at the
big picture.
the bigger picture. Exactly.
Yeah.
Why does all this stuff actually matter? What's the real impact of having a service like Cloud SQL available to us,
That's a great question. Basically, Cloud SQL represents a huge shift in how we think about database management. It's all about letting people like you focus on, the innovation and creativity rather than getting bogged down by managing infrastructure.
So it's like the difference between driving a car and having to build one from scratch, right?
Exactly.
Most of us just want to hop in the car and go, not spend years learning about combustion engines and transmissions.
Yeah, exactly. Cloud SQL handles all those under-the-hood details.
Right.
So you can just focus on the journey, not the mechanics.
I love that analogy. It really gets the point across. But let's get even more specific here. What are some of the key takeaways for our listener today? Why should they be excited about Cloud SQL?
Okay, so first and foremost, it frees you from all those tedious database administration tasks, right?
Yeah.
No more late-night server patching, no more scrambling to fix hardware failures.
Right.
Cloud SQL takes care of all that, so you can sleep soundly knowing your data is safe and secure.
The peace of mind is definitely a major selling point for sure.
Absolutely. And Cloud SQL also offers built-in reliability, scalability, and security features, right?
Okay.
And make sure your data is always accessible and protected.
So it's like having a fortress around my data, protecting it from all sorts of threats.
That's a good way to put it.
And it can grow with my needs, so I don't have to constantly upgrade my infrastructure.
Exactly. Cloud SQL is super scalable. Whether you're a tiny startup or a massive enterprise, it can handle your workload.
Okay.
And it can adjust as your needs change.
Right.
And maybe most importantly, it offers a ton of options to fit different needs and budgets, so you can start small and scale up as you grow.
This is starting to sound like a total no-brainer.
Right.
But I do have one nagging question.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the convenience and, cost savings and all that.
Yeah.
But what about security? How does Cloud SQL actually protect my data?
That's a great question, and security is absolutely a top priority for Google Cloud. Remember that Cloud SQL auth proxy we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
That's just one example of the awesome security measures they have in Cloud SQL.
Can you remind me how that works again?
Sure. So it's basically like a secure tunnel between your application and your Cloud SQL database, right?
Okay.
It makes sure that only authorized users and applications can actually get to your data.
Right.
It's like having a security guard, like we said, who checks IDs before anyone can get close to your database.
I like that visual.
Yeah.
And what about the data itself? How is that protected?
Cloud SQL encrypts your data both in transit and at rest,
Right.
meaning your data is protected whether it's moving between your app and the database or just sitting there on that persistent disk.
So even if someone like magically broke through all those security measures and got access to the physical servers, they still wouldn't be able to read my data.
Exactly. It'd be like trying to read a book in a language you don't understand. Without those encryption keys, the data is just gibberish.
Wow.
And those keys are managed securely by Google Cloud, so you don't even have to think about them.
That's incredibly reassuring. I'm starting to feel like my data would be safer in Cloud SQL than, like, on my own computer.
You're probably right. Google has a whole team of security experts whose only job is to protect their infrastructure and your data.
Okay, so we've covered convenience, cost savings, and security. Is there anything else our listeners should know about Cloud SQL before we wrap things up?
I think it's important to remember that Cloud SQL is always evolving. Google is always adding new features and making it better.
So it's not like I'm buying a static product that'll be obsolete in a few years.
No, not at all. Cloud SQL is a dynamic service. It's going to keep growing and improving.
Right.
In fact, Google just announced some new features.
Oh, this is exciting. Tell me more. What are these new features?
Well, one of the biggest announcements is that they're introducing a new performance tier for Cloud SQL.
Performance tier, what does that mean?
Think of it like choosing between a compact car and a sports car.
Okay.
Both will get you where you need to go, but the sports car has way more power and can handle more demanding tasks.
Right.
The new performance tier of Cloud SQL offers way more processing power and memory, making it perfect for applications that need high throughput and low latency.
So if I have an app that's processing tons of data in real time, like a financial trading platform or, a real-time analytics dashboard, this new performance tier would be a good fit.
Exactly. It's designed for those kinds of demanding workloads. And along with the extra performance boost, Google also made the security features even better for this new tier.
Ooh, tell me more. I love new security features.
Well, they've added something called Private Service Connect for Cloud SQL. This means you can connect your Cloud SQL instance to your applications using a private network. It completely bypasses the public internet.
This is like having a secret tunnel between my application and my database, totally hidden from prying eyes.
You got it. It adds another layer of security by making sure your data never travels over the public internet where it could be vulnerable.
That's seriously impressive. It sounds like Google is really committed to keeping our data safe.
They are.
But all this talk about, performance and security makes me wonder, is Cloud SQL only for, like, big companies with super complicated apps? What about smaller businesses or, individual developers? Is there a place for them in the Cloud SQL world?
Of course. Cloud SQL is designed to be accessible to everyone, no matter their size or how much they know about tech.
Okay.
Remember, they have a bunch of different pricing options, so you can choose a plan that makes sense for your budget.
Right.
And even the most basic plan comes with all the important features you need to get started.
Okay.
Things like automated backups, high availability, and solid security.
So even if I'm just a solo developer working on a side project, I can still benefit from Cloud SQL.
Absolutely. It's like having a whole team of world-class database administrators right there at your fingertips.
Right.
Without having to hire anyone.
That's a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think everyone should be using Cloud SQL.
Right.
But before we get carried away, let's come back down to earth for a sec.
Okay.
We've talked about all the amazing things about Cloud SQL. But I think it's important to be real. No solution is absolutely perfect, right?
True.
Are there any potential, downsides or challenges that our listeners should keep in mind?
That's a good point. Like any cloud service, there are a few things to consider when using Cloud SQL.
Okay, let's hear it. What are some of the potential drawbacks?
Well, one thing to think about is that you're basically trusting your data to a third party, right?
Right.
You need to be okay with Google Cloud's security practices and data privacy policies.
That's a valid concern. Data privacy is super important.
It is, and Google Cloud takes it very seriously. They have strict security protocols and certifications
Okay.
to make sure your data is handled responsibly and ethically. But it's always a good idea to do your own research, right?
Right.
Make sure you're comfortable with their policies before committing to any cloud service.
Good advice. What else should our listener be aware of?
Another potential challenge is that Cloud SQL is a proprietary service, meaning you're kind of tied to Google Cloud's platform and their specific way of doing MySQL, PostgreSQL, or SQL Server.
So if I decide to switch to a different cloud provider in the future, I might have some compatibility issues.
It's possible. It's not always super smooth to move your database from one cloud platform to another.
Right.
You might need to make some changes or even move your data to a completely different database engine.
So it's like choosing between a Mac and a PC. They both have their pros and cons,
Right.
and it can be a real pain to switch between them once you're already using one.
Exactly. It's important to think about your long-term needs and make sure that Cloud SQL fits in with your overall technology plan.
Okay, so we need to keep in mind data privacy and potential vendor lock-in. Anything else?
One last thing to consider is that while Cloud SQL makes database management so much easier, it doesn't completely get rid of the need for database expertise.
Okay.
You'll still need to have some basic knowledge about databases and be able to figure out how to solve problems that come up.
So it's not like a magic wand that'll make all my database problems disappear.
Not quite, but it does handle a ton of the work so you can focus on more important stuff.
Okay, that's fair. I think it's important to have realistic expectations, right?
For sure.
Cloud SQL is a powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for good database practices and the solid understanding of how databases work.
I agree.
Okay, so we've covered the good, the bad, and the potentially challenging. Where do we go from here? What should our listener do if they're interested in Cloud SQL and want to learn more?
I'd say start with Google Cloud's own documentation. They've got a ton of information on Cloud SQL, detailed tutorials, pricing examples, and even a free trial so you can test it out.
That's great advice. And I'm sure there are tons of other resources out there too, like blog posts and videos and those online forums.
Absolutely. The Cloud SQL community is awesome, very active and supportive. There are so many people out there. We're happy to share their knowledge and help others get the most out of Cloud SQL.
That's fantastic. It's inspiring to see how excited people are about this technology.
It is.
But before we send our listener off to explore this whole new world of Cloud SQL, I want to leave them with one final, thought-provoking question. We've talked a lot about the practical benefits of Cloud SQL, the convenience, the cost savings, the security, all of that. But there's also a deeper, philosophical side to think about too. As data becomes more and more important in our lives, the tools we use to manage that data, they shape not only our workflows,
Right.
but also, our thinking.
Yeah.
How might a service like Cloud SQL, with its focus on automation and ease of use, influence how we approach data itself? Could it lead to new forms of creativity, unexpected insights, and, a more data-driven world?
That's a deep question, and I think the answer is definitely yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more. I'm always interested in these, bigger picture implications.
By getting rid of the technical barriers, Cloud SQL makes data accessible to everyone, right? It empowers individuals and organizations to really use it to its full potential. It's like giving everyone a super powerful telescope to explore the vast universe of data.
That's a beautiful analogy. I could just imagine people making groundbreaking discoveries,
Yeah.
creating amazing things with the data that was just totally out of reach before.
Exactly. And as more and more people get comfortable working with data, we're going to see a big change in how we solve problems and make decisions.
Right.
We'll be able to use data to tackle complex challenges, create innovative solutions, and make better choices.
It's almost as if Cloud SQL isn't just a tool, but like a catalyst for, a new era of data-driven innovation.
I think you're right. It's an awesome time to be working with data,
Yeah.
and Cloud SQL is leading the way.
Wow, that's an inspiring thought.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into Cloud SQL. We've covered so much ground today, from the nitty-gritty details to the philosophical stuff. But this is just the beginning, right? We've given you the knowledge and the inspiration. Now it's your turn to go out there and discover what Cloud SQL can do.
And remember, the best way to really understand how powerful Cloud SQL is to try it out for yourself. Take advantage of that free trial and see what you can create.
Excellent advice. So there you have it, folks. A deep dive into Cloud SQL. A service that's not just changing how we manage data, but also shaping the future of innovation itself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Wow. I don't know about you, but I am, seriously impressed. Cloud SQL sounds like a total game changer.
It really is. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, like all those advanced features like replication and load balancing and how to make your database run even faster.
Yeah, it sounds like we could do a whole other deep dive just on that.
Definitely.
But I think for now, we should let everyone, take a break and process everything we've covered.
Yeah, good idea.
And then, start their own Cloud SQL journey.
Absolutely.
So if you're feeling inspired and you want to learn more, I'd say check out Google Cloud's documentation.
It's a great place to start.
They have tons of resources like tutorials and how-to guides. even interactive demos, I think.
It's pretty amazing.
And don't forget about that free trial. It's a great way to experience Cloud SQL firsthand without any risk.
Totally.
Yeah, sign up for that free trial, play around with it, and see how easy it is to set up and manage your own powerful database in the cloud.
It's easier than you think.
Well, that's about it for our deep dive into Cloud SQL. Hopefully you've got a good grasp of what it's all about and why everyone's talking about it.
I think we did a good job explaining it.
I think so too. We demystified Cloud SQL, explored all its features, and talked about how it could change the way we work with data.
Exactly.
And most importantly, I hope we sparked your curiosity and, made you want to explore this world for yourself.
I hope so.
Remember, data is everything these days, right?
Yeah.
So having the right tools to manage and use it is really important.
So
And Cloud SQL just might be the perfect tool you've been looking for.
it could be. Who knows? It might help you make the next big discovery.
Ooh, I like that.
Or lead to some major breakthrough in your field.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, right? Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Sounds good.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.